Welcome to Vegas Circle with Paki and Chris, and today in the circle we've got Natalie, one of the founders of Yoga Haven Las Vegas. We've also got Kaylee, a program coordinator and teacher with Yoga Haven. Today they're actually going to talk with us about their business and how they started their nonprofit. So we're happy to have you guys on and learn from you guys. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you for
ladies, how
having
you
us.
doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So tell us, man, so how did you guys start practicing yoga? Like, I know both of you guys are real big into it, so how'd you guys get into it?
I started practicing yoga back in, I think, 2000 or so it's almost 20 years now. First got introduced just, from friends, and I've always had a pretty hectic and stressful type of lifestyle, and so I just resonated with it, and that was my outlet for normalcy.
You said normalcy, yeah. I feel you. Yeah, I feel you for sure. How about yourself, Kaylee?
Yeah, so I decided to try yoga for the first time when I got pregnant with my daughter, which is now 11 years ago.
There you go.
And I did it strictly because I heard it's good for breathing, and that's how you're going to have the unmedicated birth that you want. I did it, had that birth, it was amazing, and then it didn't really mean anything to me, so I didn't come back to the practice until about 5 years later. And I came back to it because I wanted to run a half marathon, and I was like, oh yeah, it helps me breathe. And in 3 months of yoga and running, I ended up running a half marathon, the Vegas Rock and Roll one.
Oh,
and
wow.
I decided then and there that I wanted to get certified. I grew up on the east side of Vegas, so wellness wasn't something that we heard a lot about. I didn't even know what yoga was till someone had told me about it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I want to be a yoga teacher so I can give people in my community an opportunity to learn this much earlier than I had learned it.
You actually said something. Did you say unmedicated birth?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So you actually give, I thought I heard you wrong.
You heard me. Yeah.
So you gave birth, no medicine or anything?
Yeah, I had what's called an orgasmic birth, where unmedicated, no interventions,
Wow. Yeah.
add on an orgasm afterwards. Yeah, it was amazing. It
Powerful.
because I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm
Sure.
also a mental health therapist and a doula. So I've been supporting.
you're a doula also?
I am, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've been supporting birth for 9 years, as long as I've been a therapist. It all ties together, wellness and advocacy, and
That's powerful.
It
Man, I
works.
need to get into yoga, man.
Yeah.
To be able to do it. So we can get into that obviously later, but
Yeah.
you guys know a lot about core muscles and everything obviously relates to giving birth. That's unbelievable. So
Yeah, I had a water birth as well, and yoga was definitely a big factor in terms of being able to just go through it.
Sure.
And almost go through a trance and a meditation
Yeah.
through the contractions.
Yeah.
So
when you-
I wouldn't do it any other way.
I'm sorry, when you first started off, did you do it mainly for mental health or physical health when you guys were first getting into yoga?
For me, it was more on mental health for sure. Just kind of decompressing and letting it be my outlet at the end of the day. But, there's the physical aspect of it, but that's never really been my motivation with yoga.
And you were aware of those benefits prior to getting into it and knew that's kind of what the focus was going to be?
No, actually, I just tried it. At that time, there were literally, I think, only 2 yoga studios
Yeah.
here in Vegas.
Yeah.
And,
Especially back then. Yeah, it wasn't as many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And that was it, and it was a very small circle, and I came into it, and it was just something that I resonated with. You get to try different types as well, and you find where your niche is, and I found Ashtanga as my love. So
What is Ashtanga? Because I know there's Bikram,
So Ashtanga is more of a flow yoga, and it has like the vinyasa poses, and it goes through the 23 postures with the primary series.
Okay.
And my practice has sort of evolved into Mysore yoga, where there's no instruction.
Oh,
So
okay.
you go through the poses, and it's your own journey of it's a moving meditation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's simpler or?
For me, at least, I think I had to be a little bit more mature in my practice
Oh,
to get
okay,
into
okay.
Mysore.
Sure.
However, I've seen people who, if they just get through that's their first experience, then you just go through it. But I think it's different for everyone. We all have, I guess, different areas of what we like or what we don't like with the different styles. But it's all the same.
Do you practice the same also, or?
no. So when I started, it was mostly for breath work.
Oh, I'm sure you just said, yeah.
And so with that being said, I explored different styles of yoga because I was looking for the style that I felt most comfortable. And I realized there was no diversity in the spaces I was going for yoga, which further compelled me to want to explore all the styles so that I could deliver the styles myself when I became a teacher. I really resonate with yin and hatha. Hatha has a focus on the breath, being present in the body, and with yin, it's a mental challenge. You're holding poses for 3 to 8 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so
I can't even stand for 3 to 8 minutes.
right. Your mind will start to tell you, oh, itch that spot, or move out of this pose, or look at the other person. And once you get past that moment, you can sit in your body, sit in yourself without resistance, without feeling like you have to be anywhere else or do anything else other than just be. And as a therapist, I love to be mentally stimulated.
Yeah.
And, I can practice calming myself outside of the yoga practice, but for me, it's how do I engage myself? How do I stay present and excited about it?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys both start your day with yoga in the morning, or how do you guys, what's your ritual yoga? Are you every day? Are you a couple days a week, or?
Typically mine is, yes, it's to start the day. It used to be at the end of the day. Now it's really more to start the day.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I keep hearing that. I keep hearing yoga and meditation first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I would say for me that doesn't really work.
Okay.
I mean, it would be great if I had the luxury of that privilege to do so. But I get up, and from 6 a.m. until 6, 7, 8 p.m., I'm busy. As a business owner, I'm always engaged in something. And so for me, it's in the in-between spaces. So maybe I don't get 60 minutes to practice each day, but it might be 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there on my lunch break. And then when I go to bed, I make sure that I wind down in some way. And I teach anywhere from 5 to 10 classes a week. And so
okay.
I found that as a teacher, teaching isn't necessarily the same as being the student. I don't get the same benefits, especially as I'm guiding others. And so I have to be really intentional to separate my teaching from my own practice.
Okay, because you're paying attention to what they're doing and making sure you don't really focus on yourself. That's pretty cool.
And when you're doing it, is it something you recommend to do solo or in groups? Because it seems like if it's a meditative practice, it would be best to be by yourself.
Well, when I teach, I always remind, because I have students that are as young as 5, and I've had students as old as 70. And so no matter what life stage you're at, I think it's important to recognize, there is a connectedness to all of us. In this room, when we're practicing with a group of people, we owe it to ourselves and the people that we're practicing with to honor our journeys and to respect our own space and their space. But ultimately, whether you're practicing 1 or 100, it's about you and your mat. And for me, that's so important that my students know that mat is their safe space, and I won't enter that space without consent, and that no one else will either. And so they can attune to themselves. And if they want to look around, they can. But if they're really in the practice, it's difficult to
even know what's going on with everybody else.
Right. You're just trying to keep up and go through and come back to yourself.
That's pretty cool, yeah. That's really cool. We talking about the journey and everything. Do you kind of incorporate that with clean eating and things like that? Because it seems like meditation, yoga, clean eating kind of are like a marriage somehow.
Yes. I'm vegan, so
okay.
For me, I understand that a lot of yogis are vegetarian, vegan. For me, my journey into healthy eating or conscious eating had more to do with social justice and advocacy than it ever did with following the principles of I'm a yogi and I have to eat this way because that's what yogis do. My whole life mantra is doing the least amount of harm. And so if I'm doing the least amount of harm in all aspects of my life, it has to include what I put into my body for myself, the least amount of harm to others, beings, people, etc. And so for me, it's all connected. If you're going to show up for yourself to do healing, if you're going to show up to be present in your body, then it has to be a holistic approach to life.
Got it. Okay.
What happens on your mat happens out in the real world. So if you got to show up for that, you got to show up everywhere else.
Right, and just being able to, I think, practice exactly, on the mat and off the mat of what you put into your body, right, is also what you're going to put out.
Absolutely.
That's true. Yeah. I really got to get into yoga.
Yeah.
I keep hearing more just because I've heard a lot more about the core, building your core, and then especially your back as you get older in age.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm I got to figure it out. So That's pretty cool. I got to learn and just do it. What age? I heard you say from 5 to 70. What age do you recommend? Because 5-year-old is pretty impressive to be in class. I've got a 4-year-old, and I don't know if my 4-year-old would do well. I mean, what would you recommend for an age to start to be able to keep their
now?
Okay.
Like whatever age you are now.
Okay, good. Okay.
There is no perfect age to begin anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something where, regardless of your physical abilities, yoga is for everybody. So I've had students who were amputees, who were in wheelchairs, who had medical conditions, and every student can practice yoga. It might have to look different, but they can practice yoga. It doesn't matter your ability, your age. If you're ready for the practice, it's there for you.
I do think that's a problem, people not understanding really what yoga is. Because you see the people doing crazy things and you assume that's what it is. And obviously not everybody's doing that.
Right, and that's just really, the poses and the physical aspect of it is just one part of it, right? I mean, I look at yoga as it's a part of your lifestyle. How you think and how you react or not react, and how you apply it to your everyday life. All the poses and stuff, it's all fun and it's all very frivolous, but when you really get into your practice, you get to it through a mental state. I mean, it's beyond just saying, you can put your leg behind your head, but when getting into a certain posture, truly through breath work, and not even, you don't even think about it to say, hey, I have to achieve this and do this, and it's just, when you have the surrender but still be present, that's when you really feel the difference of like what you can do.
You know what's big is, how there's the corporate world and just life in general is so stressful. You were saying earlier is how you got into it is, so I like what you're saying as far as like the journey is like you are kind of calming yourself and living in the moment a lot of the times, and I'm getting that from both of you guys, is that's the biggest piece of it, so that's pretty cool. Did you ever try yoga before?
I tried it, but definitely I think expert level yoga, not entry level yoga.
Why don't you guys say when, and I'll teach a class.
I might be on board for that.
Party of two,
Natalie knows I've been BSing for a long time. Every time I say we're going to do something, no, we need to make it happen. We need to definitely make it
At
happen.
least from, like you mentioned, the mental aspect of yoga, I think, is such an important piece, and especially revolving meditation. And I think if you gear more towards that, you might have more people be willing to learn it, and it's such a great thing to be passionate about, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And as a business person and as an executive and just dealing with a lot of stress, in this chapter of my life, what it's really taught me is how to be in sync with everyday life, but with compassion. Just dealing with everyday things with compassion. And I think my practice has sort of evolved, and I had a phase as well of just not even having my practice. I lost it when I first had my son, and I had all these excuses of like why you cannot why you cannot do it. But now, like, as I get older, like it changes, and that's the biggest thing right now is truly it is compassion. When somebody is dealing with something difficult, and whether they're business deals that are going bad, or how do you talk to the other person with compassion?
That's cool. Why did you guys start Yoga Haven, Las Vegas?
So my co-founder, Honey, who unfortunately isn't here, I've been friends with her for a long time, and she was actually the person who had introduced yoga to me back in 2000.
I didn't know that.
And so we've had our own journey with our practice, and in 2016 she went to India, finally got her yoga teacher training, her 200 hours in India. And when she came back, I'm probably not the best person to tell this story, but in my own words, she came back and she knew she wanted to teach yoga, but not the traditional way of going to a studio or becoming, a traditional yoga teacher for a gym or whatnot. And she just wanted to give back and say, how do I share her passion and how yoga has helped her in her life. She's lived a very colorful life, and the impact with what it has done for her is much more dramatic than what it has done for me. Mine is a very leveled journey. So she came back. She started her new position at Boulder Boats as our PR manager, and she wrote her first grant. And from that moment, that was where it just kind of sprung. Just like, hey, it's going to be a nonprofit through yoga, and now we can, actually teach yoga for free. So we met in July, and we talked about it. And I was going through my life changes as well, and this was my way of, for my story, it's my way of being able to give back to the community.
That's cool.
And just make a difference that way.
Especially because Vegas is such a, I don't want to say it's a beautiful city, but obviously it's a crazy city at the same time. So it's good that you guys are doing that. I know you guys do a lot of different events. I was reading that you guys have taught almost 6,500 students.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Number. Yeah, it's a huge number.
Yeah.
In 2 years, or
almost 2.5 years.
That's impressive.
And that's actually not necessarily all students on the mat, but basically who we've been able to expose yoga to through the Title I schools that we teach at from elementary, middle school, and high school. Kaylee teaches a lot of our classes.
How do you guys choose where you want to do the event at?
So we split it up into two. So first, the classes that we've done, right, that, the 800 classes, those are all of our actual yoga classes from the program.
I got you. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So where the proceeds from our fundraising go to, to have the right teachers, who can commit and have the background like what Kaylee has to teach the population. So that's where all the proceeds go to from our fundraising.
Sure.
With the fundraising events, we literally just connect to the different local businesses, in Las Vegas. And it's amazing how I think, Yoga Haven was born to bring out yoga and make it accessible for everyone who don't have it, accessible to them. However, I think in a weird way, we were also able to give an outlet to the people who are in the yoga community to let them give back.
That's cool.
The yoga teachers who teach here, they're more than happy to, teach a fundraising class.
Sure.
The studios, the businesses, and they want to be involved, and that's their way to be able to participate. So we've
Especially
been
because they're giving an impact, and I know you guys have said that as you're actually impacting the city and you're actually doing something with it, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
And do you have a standalone brick and mortar location, or is it strictly pop-ups?
No, we don't have a brick and mortar location. So for the yoga programs, we go to the location of the organizations and teach the yoga there, and that's how we've been able to jumpstart it literally from zero, to 14 programs. It's just being resourceful and say, hey, that's the beauty of yoga. You don't need much. You need a flat surface and a mat, or maybe it's even a towel, and you can do it.
Sure.
And so that's how we've been able to do the programs right away. And for the events, we go to the different locations as well, and it helps promote the different businesses in the community.
When you were growing and initially starting Yoga Haven, and you're coming up with that sort of business model to be able to do pop-up, train at specific locations, as opposed to a standalone brick and mortar store, have you seen obviously the benefits are, you mentioned, you get to see a vast array of people, but what are kind of the drawbacks of that as well?
So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I teach about a third of our programs, and so that puts me in a bunch of different spaces. And I think probably the only thing that has a drawback with going to other spaces is the spaces that are available in communities or organizations that lack resources. So we provide yoga mats to almost all of our programs. Nothing is a cost to them, whether that's a yoga teacher coming. We have bolsters and blocks and mats. But I've worked in spaces where it's okay, this door is locked today, so we're going to be outside, or only 6 people can fit. How close can we get?
Sure.
And just having to be open to things that might change, or to the resources that might be available. And
are you mainly focusing to a recurring group of people, or are you noticing a lot of...
Well, it depends, right? When I teach in a school, some of the schools are here's 20 kids, you're going to have them for a semester, you'll see them every week.
Got it.
So in those situations, they tend to be populations that will come back repeatedly or even ask to come back in future semesters or years. I also work at different shelters, and so I work with Safe Nest, and they have residents that are there anywhere from a week to 2 months, and so I might see somebody for a couple classes, or I might see somebody one time, and to me, I just want to give one person one chance to see what the practice has to offer.
And it's challenging. You're challenging yourself too. That's pretty cool with yoga.
So your main focus is basically you want to get the yoga information as many hands as possible, and then hopefully turn that into a life-changing experience.
Yeah, and I think so. To kind of go back to what you said of the original plan. So our original plan actually for Yoga Haven was to have a brick and mortar. That was the original business plan we had was have a space that's going to be a safe place for people to practice, get the students transported to our location, and that same space we can also do the yoga classes for fundraising and whatnot. And as we started, and you guys know, being in business,
sure.
It just had to evolve, and so we're like,
you change it.
We can either wait
like
3 years, right? Like we can either wait 3 years to have a building donated and have enough funds to do this, or why don't we just start it now? And let's make it work.
Right.
And I think that's how we grow, is literally just being able to and making it work.
Well, and I think part of that is when I first came on, it was like 6 months in, you guys were going, and since then so many people have reached out and said, hey, can you come to us? We have students that are really interested, and I think the whole reason I was drawn to Yoga Haven was I wanted to bring yoga to people that wouldn't have access or who weren't aware that this resource existed to them. So I think with brick and mortars, it really limits who we can serve, and so it just evolved that this was the way that this was going to be, because this is how we can touch the most amount of people.
And it probably changes up the energy, not to even cut you off, but it changes up the energy going to different locations.
Right.
That's probably pretty cool.
And so all of the yoga programs are offered specifically to nonprofits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. You guys got a really cool logo. How did you guys come up with that?
It was truly a brainstorming event between me and Honey, and looking at how do we bring in and our logo has actually evolved a little bit. This used to be a person here in the middle, and now it formed into a heart.
Got it.
And just
I saw the hands,
and I had to look, do I have a person or a heart?
That's cool.
And it kind of just became we're just like that's it. That's what it's going to be. It's having Yoga Haven, a safe place, right? And truly, where does that safe place live? It's within you.
That's cool.
Oh, air snaps to
there
that.
You go. That's cool. Okay, you're gonna start spitting. You're gonna start doing freestyle in a second. That's good. That's really good.
And it sounds like you guys, have a lot going on, and it's, really impacting, our city of Las Vegas. What is the accomplishment you're most proud of or excited about?
I am most excited that when I started practicing 5 years ago, and I would walk into a yoga class, and I didn't see people from, at least teachers, that were from different backgrounds, different places, different bodies, that now I can walk into a space and I can teach a class in English or Spanish. I can offer a different idea of what yoga looks like. I'm quite curvy. That I can represent all the things that I didn't see when I was a student, so that students can see themselves in yoga. To me, that I accomplished that mission, and I love that I get to do that every time I walk into a space and they're like, "You do yoga?"
It's funny you said it, because everybody has their ignorant prejudices of what they think.
Well, limited.
That's funny you say that.
It's limited based on our world experiences.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good you said that. Yeah.
And I would say, as an organization, where I'm most proud of is when we speak to the social workers and or our liaisons from the different organizations, and they just give us these stories of Nevada Youth Network. One time we spoke to them after our first 8 months of a program. He said, what differences have you seen from the kids? And I said, one time we had this mom come to our place, which is, so Nevada Youth Network provides a space for kids in a low-income community twice a week so that they can do their homework, they can get snacks, they have a safe place for them.
Yeah.
And this mom started storming and said, what is this nonsense that my, kid just came home and he's saying namaste this and namaste that. And, just kind of seeing those small differences. And this other school, Mountain View Elementary, this other story where there was this child who did not want to participate at all, and he just sat there. He attended every time, but he just sat there and, just observed. And even just being around it, you're already impacting them, and you're just making, you're just making it known, right? And maybe if it doesn't change their life, it doesn't make a difference at that moment, but maybe when they're 18 and they have a difficult decision that they have to make or path they have to make,
subconsciously it's going to come back.
Hopefully they can remember and say, hey, there's another option here before you can react or you become angry or anything like that. So
make you think.
Yeah,
make you think.
Yeah, most people aren't aware of it. Like, especially if you're coming from different, like you mentioned, areas of town or more impoverished areas. I'm sure they're. No, I didn't know about it growing up.
For sure, and I noticed. I hate to keep referring to Russell because we talk a lot about Russell. I know Russell Simmons doing a lot of. A lot of cities. I think he did big in LA, and I think Chicago he's starting to go into now. So with all the kids doing it in school, so that's pretty cool. So just to flip it a little bit, talk about Las Vegas a little while.
Yes.
So what you guys like a lot about Las Vegas?
Yeah, so my dad was military, and this is where he ended when he got out of the military. So for me, it was a very unique place that I did not appreciate or understand until I left. I went away for grad school and moved to the Central Coast of California, where it was really homogenous, very wealthy, and it was the first time people considered me ethnic. And my daughter and I definitely, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. I had to make her hair products because they didn't carry hair products within a 30-mile radius.
Oh,
and
damn.
so it was
Where were you living?
San Luis Obispo.
Okay, got you.
Which is a beautiful place.
Gotcha.
It's gorgeous.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't until I moved back that I could really appreciate that despite not having a sense of community that I think we're now cultivating, that we have been cultivating over the past 5 to 10 years, that there's so much that Vegas has to offer. Accessibility, diversity, excitement, opportunity that I didn't realize doesn't exist in other cities or towns. There's always something to do here and a way to find yourself in those things. And so now that we are starting to build, especially down here in the arts district, a sense of identity, I think there's more space for people to show up and to try new things and to explore themselves. And that's really exciting to me, that there's so many resources here now.
Yeah, that's really good. And one of the other questions we got for you guys, because we always talk about food. So what's your, were you vegan?
Oh, goodness.
Were you vegan also, or?
No, because you remember I'm Filipino.
All the pork and all the stuff. Yeah. So what's both of y'all's favorite restaurant here in Las Vegas?
Oh, you have to answer
We
first.
have to pick just one.
Right.
That's difficult.
Just one, though.
Just give a couple, just a couple quick ones. Yeah.
So I think definitely one of my go-to places right now is Esther's Kitchen.
Okay.
Oh, where's that at?
Which is 5 minutes from here.
Oh, really?
On Main and California, Main and just right there.
Okay, I don't know.
By Charleston, Main and Charleston.
What kind of food?
Italian food. They make their own bread. I mean, it is the best, those hearty breads where it's super hard on the outside.
Yeah.
They make this anchovy butter, which is just delicious.
Swear,
Another favorite is I do love Mordeo, which is a boutique wine bar on Spring Mountain, and so they have tapas. It's sort of like Spanish tapas food, but it's a little bit of some Asian influence in there too.
It's in Chinatown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of like Lindell and Spring Mountain there, but just a nice adult place.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I actually saw that on the north side of the street, north side of Spring Mountain.
Yes.
Yeah, I seen it when you passed by. Yep. Okay, cool. That's on my list also. And then you.
Oh goodness, I'm racking my brain for this because I'm
with the vegan food, I was curious what you're gonna say.
I love so many places. Veggie Express has amazing sushi. So, people ask me, oh, do you only hang out with vegans? No, because then I'd have no friends, because I don't know where they live. But I'll bring a lot of carnivores to places just to verify. Like, I can think it's good, but I need an endorsement from you. So I've taken people to Veggie Express and the sushi. I even had to ask, like, are you sure you're a vegan place? I think Vegan Bites is great for their donuts. They're amazing, and they just opened up a location for food, and they have a tofu BLT sandwich that's pretty good, and the best hot chocolate ever.
Good stuff.
I really love sweets, so like I could ramble down the list of all that.
Have you been to Raku Sweets?
No, I don't know.
Oh, you're gonna have to go there.
Yes, my spot.
And they don't. I've never been there, so I've always wanted to go.
Oh, definitely.
And you don't make a reservation.
Is that here
right?
in town?
This place is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. My kids love it. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like a 3-course dessert meal.
Yeah, they have a limited menu. It's changing constantly.
Oh, okay.
Seasonal.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, definitely check that out. One of my favorite spots. And then, what's some of y'all's personal goals, and what's the next 5 years planned for Yoga Haven?
Ooh,
Personal goals as like
Whatever you want to say.
Whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
Whatever you want to say.
So, personal goal for me, and now I'm saying this 5 years from now, because I also said this 3 years ago, so I'm sort of extending it a little bit.
That's okay.
But one, I'd like to go on a 1-year sabbatical with my son and just travel around the world and, just experience different cultures, kind of just have an open itinerary. And I feel like, that's one thing that, you just can't teach it in school. What that human connection is and how you interact with people. And travel is a big part of my life, and so that's a personal goal I have. And coupled with that is to just have a minimalist lifestyle and just, really proceed to that and just be more mindful in terms of just, what are really the necessities versus just the wants and the luxuries in life, and
that's cool.
Look at it in a different angle. So that's my personal goal. And I'll let you answer that, and then I'll answer Yoga Haven.
Okay.
My personal goal, I think, for me in the next 3 years, because 2 years ago I said this was mine, and I said 5 years, I am really committed to being in Las Vegas. And for me, my whole life revolves around advocacy and how I can empower other people to use the wisdom and the strength that already exists within them, that there's nothing that I can give to them. They already have this. I just want to be a guide and helping them find that. And so creating spaces or a space, connecting with people of like minds, and building something that is long-lasting and meaningful, and that again empowers the community to stand and to advocate for themselves. I think I live a lot of minimalism already and have traveled quite a bit, so I'm in a space now where this is roots, and I want these roots to run deep, and I want my daughter to be able to say, my mom did that, or my mom started that, so that she can feel invested in this community and feel like she's a part of it and do her own part when she's older. So for me, it's about legacy. What can I do for my child and everybody else's child?
Get me pumped up. Step my game up. That's awesome.
Yes.
Both of you guys. That's great. Yeah, that's
So
great.
Yoga Haven, what's in store for us?
So I think for Yoga Haven, it's truly, in 5 years from now, having yoga accessible to all the different organizations out there as a tool for trauma recovery.
Yes.
And so that it doesn't have to be a question of like, how can they pay for it? How do they get it? How can we get enough funding so that we can actually, that money should not have to be the issue of being able to practice. It shouldn't be the barrier. Right.
That's a good point. Where can people find you guys at? Because how can we donate and give out some of your social media and websites and all that?
yogahaven.org.
Okay.
We have our website is pretty expansive in terms of just what are our programs, what are we about, and there are many ways of being able to donate. You can do a one-time donation and help a couple classes, or you can actually have a monthly recurring one where you can fund the starter kits that go to the schools, for as low as $20 a month.
That's cool.
All the way to, if you really want to be a temple donor and donate $4,000 and fund a full program for a year.
That's cool.
For maybe there are people out there who have specific passions for a certain organization or a certain population.
Sure.
Be it from women's support centers, from rape victims, going to youth support, Title I schools, drug recovery, and many others.
Well, and we also accept donations for mats, bolsters, blocks.
Sure. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
good. We'll definitely put that out when we post you guys' interview, and we're happy to have you guys in the city.
definitely. That was
man.
very informative.
Yeah, very appreciate you guys hanging out with
Yeah,
us.
this
and,
is fun.
Yeah,
we support
thank
you guys.
you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And then when we put you guys out, it'll be at VegasCircle.com on our website and all the platforms. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
thanks,
great
guys.
talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.